Hi my sweet friends, welcome back. In today's video I really want to kind of share how something looks to me. It's not an exact question that I was asked, it's just kind of a topic that I was asked to speak about. And that topic is the kind of intersection between the physical and what our needs are in a very physical sense of like we have brains and bodies and we are, mammals and the principles and kind of where I see that balance. And it ties into a whole bunch of things. So while I'm going to try not to go off on a tangent, I apologize if I do. So essentially, there's this kind of misunderstanding that I've noticed, this kind of misperception that when we talk about the physical, when we talk about the brain or hormones or biochemistry or nutrition or sleep, things kind of in that category, that's somehow outside of the principles. It's like, oh, the principles is what we talk about with the mind, and then there's the very real areas of like sleep, hormones, biochemistry, nutrition, everything else. And to me, there's a lot of misunderstanding about one, that everything on this category is outside. Like, inside out means we always look at the mind and it's all thinking and none of this exists or is relevant. And I'll be the first person to say I think that is absolutely not true. I think that looking at sleep, nutrition, biochemistry, hormones, all of that is within this conversation, not outside of it. But there's a few things that I mean when I say within this conversation. The principles points us to a few truths. And one of the truths that points us to is the kind of logical implication that nothing outside of us can create a cause and effect relationship to something in us, in our experience. And I see that as being absolutely true because I know that I have had times where I have been running on, very little sleep or hormones, not running on hormones, but being kind of in a hormonal shift or hormonal storm. Times when I've not been eating well, times when, my diet's been kind of wonky or my sleep patterns have been kind of wonky. And there have been times when that has really seemed to affect me, like a lot. And there are times when that didn't really seem to affect me much at all. And that's pointing to the fact that, there is no causal cause-effect relationship that, 7 hours of sleep makes you have this kind of experience, or 3 hours of sleep makes you have this kind of experience, or anything that is so cut and dry, black and white as cause and effect. And I'm quite strict when I say cause and effect. I mean, literally, it has to, in 100% of cases, cause it. And if you look in your life, and if you look in other people's lives, and if we all just kind of collectively look at our experience together, we'll see that it doesn't work that way. It's not that that time of the month always means I'm going to have a certain experience. It doesn't mean that a sleepless night or a night with very little sleep means I'll have a certain type of day the next day. It doesn't work like that. Now, a lot of people will hear, okay, there's no cause and effect as being either it's irrelevant or it's outside of the conversation or it's not worth tending to. And that is not true, and that is a mistake, because the very fact that, another implication of the principles is the very fact that we are this dance, this intersection between formlessness and form. And what I mean by that is really at our source, all we are is energy. All we are is the quantum field, the divine, whatever word you want to use for it, the allness, the oneness, God. I don't really care what word you use for it, but there is the very fact that we are temporarily in this form, but we are not this form. But then there's a very real thing of like, well, we are temporarily in this form. I'm in this body, and I don't think I'm going to be in any other body while I'm on this journey to the death of this body. I'm pretty sure that until the day that my physical form dies, this is what I'm stuck with. So it kind of makes complete and logical sense that, yes, if I'm the intersection between formlessness and form, if I'm the dance between the fact that there is a kind of fluid, transient, always moving energy, but there's a very real fact that I have a brain, I have a heart, I have a body, I have needs of sleep, needs of nutrition, needs of shelter, needs of water, needs of everything else. Why wouldn't I do my best to take care of that? Like, that just seems so illogical that I would somehow think to myself, like, well, the body doesn't matter, or sleep doesn't matter, or food doesn't matter. Just because there is no cause and effect between getting omega-3 fatty acids and having a clearer experience of life, or some type of kind of black and white connection, doesn't mean it doesn't occur to me to put healthy food in my body. Like, no shit. Of course it does. Of course it occurs to me to get rest every night. Of course it occurs to me to make healthy choices. One of the things that I think this all ties into is we have this idea of a 3P police. And if you've heard this before, 3P police is basically that there is a right way to do the principles. There's a right way to teach them. There's a right way to talk about them. And there is certainly a right way to live them. And we shouldn't be going outside the principles lest the 3P police get us. So at the risk of going on the internet and getting arrested by the 3P police, I am here to say that I am the first person to take my physical health and my body I was going to say very seriously, but that is not true. To really attend to that, because that is something that I highly value. And to me, something you highly value and something you take seriously are not at all the same. But I'm going to, put that distinction aside for another day. I actually think that in taking things seriously, we get ourselves into a whole mess of ideas and stuckness and attachment to concepts. And I don't want any of that. But I do value and I highly prioritize sleep and well-being. I have a daily yoga practice that I have for 15 months, got on my yoga mat every single day without fail. Now, I don't do that because I think that yoga makes me happy. It's cause and effect. Therefore, I do yoga. Therefore, I get happy. I do it because it's like I said, I'm in this physical body for hopefully another 70, 80, 90 years. And I want to spend my absolute best time in this body in the state of health and well-being as possible. So it occurs to me that I might want to eat a balanced diet. It occurs to me that I might want to take supplements such as vitamin D, multivitamin, probiotics. It occurs to me to try to get 8 hours of sleep every night. And I don't see any of that as being contrary to the principles, or any of that being outside, like, oh, that's outside in, that you have a daily yoga practice. No, it's not. Because here's what I centrally want you guys to take away from this video. The principles is not about, in my mind, and I'm just speaking from experience, obviously, and what it looks like to me. I'm not definitely saying that I am the definitive voice for everybody who teaches and shares the principles, because that is impossible. But to me, the principles has made a lot of people think that it's all about, it's inside, it's just thought, it's just your thinking, it's just, it's just experience, it's just energy, don't mind anything, don't do anything, don't make any changes. And what I'm starting to see lately is it's really all about not letting our thinking get in the way of wisdom and common sense. A few nights ago, or maybe a week ago, somebody invited me to a social event and I had no interest in going to. And had I not realized that my feelings of kind of guilt and insecurity at turning down the invitation, had I thought that, I am somehow obligated to go because that's what you do when you're invited to a dinner, I would have probably went, despite the fact that I didn't want to, despite the fact that my wisdom would so much rather have just spent the night on the couch reading by the fire, which is what I did. But I would have taken that insecure thinking seriously and really felt like, well, I'm invited, therefore I have to go. Or we do this all the time, of giving into what our minds bully us into doing when we really don't want to be doing it. And in that way, I think that when we look at the kind of thought part of the equation, when we look at the it's just your thinking part, we find a lot of freedom in not having to do the things that we don't want to do, don't feel like doing, don't make sense to us to do. But when it goes to the kind of the other part of it, where I often hear people say, well, what about sleep? What about nutrition? What about yoga? What about meditation? What about Reiki and acupuncture and non-traditional healing modalities? what about alternative medicine? What about supplements? What about REM sleep? What about, all of these things? To me, it's like, well, we get to do what makes sense to us. We all have wisdom within us that will guide us to what is right for us. I definitely don't think that everybody in the world should be, living life the same way I do. I don't, think that everybody needs to have a daily yoga practice, and everybody should be taking vitamin D supplements in the winter, and everybody should be taking a multivitamin, and everybody should be trying to balance their diet and, cut down on the meat and stock up on fruits and veggies and like, no, who am I to say that other people should be living life a certain way or eating a certain way or following certain sleep patterns? But I know for me, my own wisdom comes through as such obvious common sense that it would be dumb and silly and make no sense for me not to do the things that make sense to me to do. It would be like breaking my arm and then being like, well, it's all just thought, so I'm not going to go to the hospital and get it put in a cast. No, of course, if I break my arm, I'm going to go into a hospital and get my arm fixed by trained medical professionals who know how to assist the healing of bones in the body. Of course I'm going to do that. Of course, if I'm tired, I'm going to go to sleep. Of course, even like minor things, like I stopped waking up to an alarm that was vibrating and loud and started waking up. If you have an iPhone, I highly recommend you go to the bedtime section. And I discovered that there was this way to wake up where it gets progressively, the phone's not vibrating. It's a very gentle, harmonious melody, and it slowly, 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 slowly wakes me. Here's where all of this kind of ties together. It looks to me like so obvious. Like, once I discovered that that feature was on my iPhone, why would I not use it? Why would I choose to be waking up in a kind of startled awake way when I could gently have music get louder and louder and louder and have this beautiful kind of gentle way of having my alarm go off in the morning? Obviously, I'm going to do that. Do I think everybody should do that? No. Do I think that that defies the rules of it being a thought-created experience, how I feel when I hear my alarm? No. But here's what I think is like kind of missing, is that when we're so caught up in it's inside out, it's all thought, it's all thinking, we forget that the goal of this conversation is to wake us up to the fact that we have the intelligence of the entire freaking universe within us. That, for me, has guided me to do certain stuff, like set a gentler alarm, sleep in a dark room, value getting 8 hours of sleep, taking probiotics, doing yoga. Like, these are no-brainer things to me that it's like, why would I not do that? But in truth, I don't actually think that my alarm is making me have a certain experience upon waking, or my probiotic is making me have a certain level of mood throughout the day, or my yoga is making me happy and joyful in my life, because it does not cause and effect, my friends. It does not work that way. So if you're, looking at these things for yourself and you're really feeling like you have the three people who's looming over your shoulders who are telling you that, no, if you really understand the principles, you would not be going to a Chinese medicine practitioner, you would not be making changes in your diet, or you would not be going to bed earlier, you would not be having a gentler alarm, or you would not, whatever makes sense for you to do. Full permission to do what makes sense to you, to follow your wisdom, to go with your common sense, knowing that that is that built-in capacity of intelligence and wisdom that we all have. But if you're doing it in a way where you think, I need these probiotics because they're going to make me happy. I need this yoga practice, this meditation practice, because without this, that creates my well-being and my sense of happiness. Or I need 8 hours of sleep because 7 hours of sleep causes depression, irritability in me, or anything that is kind of a black and white, locked in cause and effect. Then the principles invite us to reconsider that, well, it doesn't actually work that way. It is an experience of energy, and it'll be different and fluid and variable as we go through our life. And that being said, there is nowhere in that does it say don't care for your body. Nowhere in that does it say you must go to social plans. You must do certain things in your relationships with certain people. You must eat a certain way. You must sleep a certain amount. You must, anything. Like if you're hearing a rule in your head that says, well, if I understood the principles, then I wouldn't fill in the blank. That is untrue, and that doesn't need to be listened to. So I know it's kind of got tangential in in all of the topics that I wanted to kind of cover in addressing this question, but really what it comes down to is I don't want anyone to feel like this conversation is restricting or dissuading anyone from taking good care. Because yes, we are formlessness, and yes, we have pure potential, and yes, we have the possibility for things to be completely different, whether, same hormone level, same amount of sleep, same diet, and we can have amazing days and terrible days, and we will have amazing days and terrible days. But to me, while we are in this body, while we are on this life, while we have the precious time that we are given to love, to live, to laugh, to enjoy, to create, to cultivate, to experience, why wouldn't I do what makes sense to me? Why would I, not take vitamin D if I feel like that's helpful? Why would I not try to eat a balanced diet when I know that I have a physical systems to support? Why would I not make tea when I'm thirsty, go to bed when I need a nap, say no to social invitations when I would rather not, or anything else that my wisdom invites me to do? Why wouldn't I? And the question that people tend to get when they ask themselves this is because I have thinking otherwise. I have thinking about how much sleep I need. I have thinking about what I need to have diet-wise. I have thinking about what is okay in terms of obligations to friends and family or social expectations or anything like that. And really, that's where we get invited to see, well, that's just fluid, transient, meaningless thought. And your wisdom will let you know to go to the dinner or not, to take a multivitamin or not, to change your alarm in the morning or not, to go to bed earlier or not, to sleep in later or not. Your wisdom has your back. And that is the main thing that I want you to walk away with today knowing. So please, 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 as always, if you have any questions, write them below. I will do my absolute best to address them. If there is something that you would like me to address or talk about on these videos, I would also love that. You can definitely leave that below. And subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos every Friday, and you can always, get in touch with me by comments or by email. So take care, my lovelies. Be well, and I will speak with you next week. Bye.